to go ahead and get started. So this video is called I Shall Not Want. And it used to be kind of like the theme of my life, to not want, to not be in desire, because I knew, not from Buddhism, but actually from Judaism, that to want, to feed, to be in a sense of lack would contribute to me being in a state of suffering. Later, I learned, when some people thought I was Buddhist, that was a tenet of Buddhism, that suffering, or basically desires, can lead to suffering or to dukkha. But I didn't know that at the time. So I would put that in the category of a universal truth. So the Psalm 23, is where the line "I shall not want" comes from. And so I'm going to expound on that a little bit and talk about how we get stuck because of our desires. And then that leads to our suffering and leads to us seeing people and systems and other things as threats, and keeping us stuck in survival mode and a lack consciousness. So thanks for being here, Anne, and hey, Anne, Carl, and Moxie, and whoever comes next. So in the 23rd Psalm, there is this. It starts off like this: "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Or we could say, "The Creator is my shepherd, I shall not want." Or, "Divine Mind is my shepherd, I shall not want." Whatever word that makes you feel comfortable, this is about connecting with a higher awareness of who you are as a being with infinite imaginative capacity, infinite awareness capacity, and infinitely expanding consciousness. We might not know ourselves as that, because that's not how we get contextualized and conditionalized when we show up in the world. But let's just start from this basis that we are, in fact, reflections of what God is. I was actually thinking this morning about, if God is ultimate and divine intelligence, how could anything stupid be created? And so either the stupid thing doesn't exist, or maybe God isn't those things. But that's a tangent. So, "Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Let's start from there. So the idea of want means that something's missing. So if you are provided for, protected, which is the conditions of someone who, the whole "Lord is my shepherd" thing is an analogy that, just like a shepherd cares for their flock, the Creator cares for those in the Creator's charge, which would be all beings. So to say "the Lord is my shepherd" or "Creator is my shepherd, I shall not want," is to say that I lack nothing. And so I actually translated it to that for myself a long time ago, saying, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." And another way that I used to frame it was, if God provides all of my needs, this is what I used to say in my former Christian context: if God provides for all of my needs, absolutely, then I can only want what I don't need. So I'll say that again. If God, or the universe, or the Creator, provides for all my needs, I can only want what I don't need. And so a lot of times when I was in that context, and people would see how I was navigating some different tumultuous situations, or things that would should have put me into loss, and I wasn't operating from that paradigm, they would say, "Well, how are you not upset about that? How are you not mad about that? How are you not?" And at the time, I was like, what he used to call sold out for Christ. So I was like super like, "Well, Jesus has me," But I believed it. I wasn't talking out my ass. I really believed it. So I was just like, "Hey, man, I shall not want. If God provides all my needs, I can only want what I don't need. And if I need $1 million, I'll have $1 million on the day I need $1 million. But if I don't need $1 million a day, why would I worry about it now?" And everybody thought I was stupid. And for a long time, even into my 30s, I still operated under that paradigm. But I also became a parent in my 30s, and started to kind of try to figure out how to maintain that consciousness, while people were telling me, "Well, Pedro, it's time for you to grow up now. Well, Pedro, it's time for you to start believing in lack and all this other stuff now. You got kids, man." And I slowly but surely started to fall for that BS. And I am now coming out of that BS, and I'm sharing my coming out of that BS with you. So to kind of break down, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to break down that psalm in different chunks, and then I'll just kind of extrapolate on it. But it's the invitation here is to start from the premise that you lack nothing, that the world lacks nothing. Now, do we experience that? Yes, because people believe in lack. And so if you believe in lack, you feel like your gain is someone else's loss, or those sorts of things, or someone else's gain is your loss. That's the game we play in this capitalistic kind of insane society. But from a spiritual perspective, we're going to operate from the paradigm we all are provided for. So again, the creator, divine mind, is my shepherd. I lack nothing. Then it goes in the normal King James version or whatever. It's like, Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It says he leading me. No, excuse me. Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He making me lie down in green pasture. So, okay, he makes me lie down in green pasture. So that's like invites me into rest. So I'm invited into rest, or I'm for a sheep, that would be green pasture to rest, but also to eat. So you're sustained, like everything you need is sustained. So I am sustained. So the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I am sustained. He leads me to green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. So the still waters is also, you have your thirst. Your thirsts are quenched, and also still waters are reflective. And so if you're in that still water place, you can be reflective. So you have rest, you have provision, you have the capacity to reflect if you're provided for. And so that's the way that I'm taking it. So leads me beside the still waters and restores my soul, brings me back into myself, brings me back into my awareness of the reality of who I am as a comforted and provided for being. So that's another invitation when we look at ourselves in that context. So leads me, restores my soul, leads me down the path of righteousness for the Creator's name's sake. So it's like, if you're provided for, if you're conscious of these things, then it's also highly possible that you will then live from a place of righteousness, because you're not operating from the paradigm of who is trying to take from me, how, what do I have to lose, and all these other things. So then when you're in a consciousness that you're provided for, you also can live from a place of righteousness. Now, I know that feels difficult for some people when they feel like they are at a loss, but from a spiritual perspective, none of us are at a loss. So we're operating from that paradigm. So coming from that place, you're leading down the path of righteousness for the Creator's name's sake, or in the way of the Creator. Um, and then it says, like, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Now, right now, we're living in the valley of the shadow of death if you look at the world as it's playing out. But I am trying to kind of cultivate more relationships and more encounters and more possibilities of people who are operating from a spiritual awareness. They can now create from that place of not being in lack, not seeing us as in competition with one another, but to be in cooperation with one another. And we had to start somewhere. We had to start spiritually, because if we look at the material world, we're going to be very much distracted by what we see. And it's not to ignore what's on that surface, but it's to build up your capacity to be able to create alternatives to the world that we are seeing get played out all the time, operating from a place of lack. And I could go deep, deep, deep down the capitalistic hole that has us so programmed and so fearful. I'd rather not. Let's stay in the spiritual path. So you lead down the path of righteousness for the Creator's name's sake. And even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it says you will fear no evil, for you are with me. So it's saying this: if the shepherd's with me, I don't have anything to fear. And that's the same way that the sheep would have felt, because they had their shepherd there that protected them from wolves, kept them provided for, and all these other things. And so, with the context of being in community with this divine shepherd, then even though you're walking in the valley of the shadow of death, you don't have to be in fear. It says, for you are with me. Then it says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now, I was taught that your rod and the staff was like you beat your kids and somehow supposed to be a comfort. Those mugs. Anyway, they believe that. And that's had a lot to do with slave Christianity, because black people used to get their ass beat. When we still getting our ass beat, but we used to really get our ass beat with that slave Bible. And they would make us think that everything was justification for treating us like trash and not humans, and then tell us that it was God's love. So they translated it as your rod and your staff comfort me. So it's like, I'm so comfortable with you beating my ass. That is not what it meant. just to let you know that was some BS. And some people still believe that. I, for one, don't. Rather, the rod and the staff are tools that the shepherd had. So the rod was to protect the sheep if like wolves were coming. It was like pop, 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 pop. And then the staff was also this thing that the shepherd walked all over the fields and the mountains and stuff. So it was like kind of like guidance, So it's like I'm protected and I'm guided. So your rod and your staff, they're comforting me. So I'm comforted when I have this protection from the shepherd is always with me. That's the context, that the shepherd is always there. And so rod and staff accompany me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. So this is saying I'm so comforted and so protected and so cared for that even when I'm in the context of people who hate me, I don't have to worry because I'm also still provided for, even in that context. In the Course in Miracles, it says that nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. And I think that it's a similar kind of notion that even though we feel like we're in the valley of the shadow of death, and even if we are in the place of enemies or perceived enemies, when we are in one or in the presence of the shepherd, none of that matters. We're still covered. And so that's the context. And this is like beyond religion. I think that this is just a spiritual awareness that people tap into lots of different traditions. And this is the way it was articulated in the tradition of the Hebrew tradition. So anyway, rod, staff, cover me. Tables prepared before me in the presence of my enemy. My head is anointed with oil. That means I'm blessed, right? I'm anointed. And actually, the word for Christ is anointed. So the word that they call Christ, it means the anointed one. So in our own way, each and every one of us is anointed to be who we truly are. And who we truly are is who we are with divine intelligence. It's I won't get into it right now because I don't want the video too long, but let's just say that your head is anointed, you're blessed, the Christ is within you, that sort of thing. So you're anointed head with oil, cup runneth over. That means you have abundance, infinite abundance. So it's like my cup runneth over. So even when my cup is full, there's so much more that there's no loss. And if everyone is operating from that awareness, then other people don't become a threat. And even if you pour from your cup, you don't care because you know your cup is going to continually be filled. And that's the truth of consciousness. That's the truth of intelligence. That's the truth of the love of the creator that loves all of us, even the biggest assholes that I could think of are loved. They just don't know they are. So here we are, blessed, cup running over. Then it says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. So it's like just that awareness that if we are in community with the divine shepherd, the divine awareness, that consciousness, then we are covered and goodness will follow us all the day of our life. But it's not just that goodness is like we're like just receiving goodness. It's like goodness is also in our wake, that we also leave goodness in our wake. When we come from that consciousness and we move through life from that consciousness, then the goodness and the mercy will follow us as we move through life. And then it says, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Which is like, I know this, I have received this. So where else would I go? Where else would I be in this home where I'm honored, received, blessed, cared for, provided for, all of these things? And if I accept this, then why should I want? So it's not just not wanting because wanting creates suffering, but there's nothing to want because everything you need is already here. And that is the paradigm that I am choosing to live from. My bank account doesn't believe it yet, but I do, and it'll catch up, I guess. But even if it doesn't matter because the reality and the fullness of who I am, who you are, who we all are, is this invitation that's been present for us in many traditions throughout time. And it can be articulated in a bunch of ways, but ultimately, it's saying who you are is enough. Who you are is enough. Who you are is enough for the moment you're in. Who you are is enough for the relationships that you're a part of. Who you are is enough to create whatever kind of situation that you're trying to create from a place of love and a place of fulfillment. And that's the invitation. There's a lot of things to be pissed off about, but we also have the capacity to create solutions for these problems. I love Buckminster Fuller's statement that I've mentioned before, and I'll probably mention 10 billion times, that you cannot solve a problem by fighting the existing reality. You have to create a new reality that makes the old reality obsolete. And that is always in the forefront of my consciousness. Like every time I'm thinking about something, I'm like, what can I create that would make this BS obsolete? Because if I'm just trying to fight this BS and I'm not trying to create something better, most people will not abandon the BS they know just for no reason. They're afraid of the mystery. They're afraid of the unknown. They're afraid they're not provided for. So they need to see an alternative, um, present it for them so they can say, oh my God, look, there's a better way of doing this. And there's always people that are on the tail end of any innovation, whether it's a material innovation or it's a spiritual innovation. But there's also people that are on the front end. I'm choosing to be on the front end and hang out with people on the front end and hopefully create enough momentum in our love for each other and our communities that we create that other people will go, dang, they look like they're having a good old time there, not wanting. And maybe they want to feel like they're enough too. And the biggest tragedy, the biggest um I guess pandemic in this world is people feeling like they're not worthy of love, when the reality is that we've all emerged from love. That is the truth of it all. And we're missing out on it because we're trying to be qualified by people who don't have the qualifications to say whether we're worthy of love or not. There's a lot of broken people that are at the forefront of our systems right now, and they are damaged people, and there's no way we're going to undamage them by getting upset at the level that we do without having some kind of complementary creative process. Like, I get pissed, no doubt, and then I ask myself, what do I do with this energy? What can I create with this energy? I'll write stuff, I'll make videos, I'll try to make out workshops, and I'm starting to work on some things for men because I don't even have to say more. Like, just saying men, and you're just gonna know we're broken as hell. But I'm choosing to encounter that with my eyes wide open and try my best to create something that can help some other men um, come out of some of this junk. Because I'm not gonna pretend like we're not we're messing us up on a regular basis. Is pathetic. And most of us are doing it because we're trying to be strong when we're really not strong. And one of the beautiful things that says in, I think, Second Corinthians 12, I'm trying to pull it from the top of the dome right now. But it says that, like, there's a story where Paul's like trying to get out of some infirmity that he had. And then he's told, no, but your strength is made perfect in weakness, or power is made perfect in weakness, which really means that you experience the true power when you allow yourself to be vulnerable. But that's not what we're taught. A lot of us are taught that we have to pretend like we're not vulnerable. We have people like Pete Hegseth, who's just trash. I can't act like the fool's not trash. He's trash. He's like the worst symbol of a man I've ever even like. If I see his face, I just want to cry of the level of depths of patheticness that must exist in this being. But he's only doing it out of, I'm gonna assume, out of some kind of innocence. Like, I think this fool really believes that he's a man. He's not, but he believes he is. And that's sad because he probably needs a hug, a cry, and a slap across the face to wake up. I feel sorry for this guy because he's always talking about lethality and all these other things because he's so weak. But maybe if he had the room to grow and he knew he was cared for and loved truly without qualification, maybe he could create something better than whatever this show that he is creating. And I won't even say anything about the Scredo, but if you don't know who the Scredo is, that's my word for DJT 4547. He's like kind of like the Antichrist, but just less intelligent. So I call him the Scredo. And if you want to know more about the Scredo, you can look at some of my past posts. But it's not about them. It's about the vacuous state of consciousness that so many people are operating at because they don't feel loved, because they don't feel like they're enough, because they don't feel like they're cared for, because they feel like they have to earn their value. And if they need to earn their value, then man, I got to get billions and billions of dollars. But a lot of times, the more you see people trying to gain this, to say that they have worth and say they have value, that's the degree that they're empty. They're actually operating at a spiritual deficit that looks like a material gain, but it's like, you like, just use Elon Musk for example. He's probably the most pathetic human being in the world because the degree of his emptiness is that he needs all of this to feel like he could be just maybe at zero. That's the level of absence, of not, of wanting and lacking and trying, and it's sad. But we can't do anything for him if we don't do anything for ourselves first. So the first thing we have to do is love ourselves receive the fact that we are loved, and then know that our cup is overflowing with love. If we would just receive it, then we can give it away all day long because there's no loss. And that's the invitation. It might not make a lot of sense, especially if you haven't encountered messages like this. I used to operate from this, and I was broke as a joke. We used to get our house lights turned off all the time, water turned off the time, evicted, sheriff coming and taking our crap. Like, I've been through all of that stuff. That's one of the cool things about being black and poor is I already survived a bunch of stuff, so I'm not scared of the things that some people are scared of. But because of that, somewhere in the depths of that bottom place, I encountered this love and was like, yo, I'm loved even though my life is not that great and the world thinks I suck and blah, 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 blah. But that love was still there. And I'm like, well, if the love is there, where is the love not? And the answer is it's everywhere. We just got to open ourselves up to receive it wholly and fully and receive it, whatever tradition that gives you access to that awareness. I don't judge traditions anymore since I escaped evangelicalism. I just am grateful for any person who can connect with the source of being and love, even if the person can be atheist and get it through other human beings. I am not a judge of that. It's just to come to that awareness that you are loved, your cup will overflow if you receive it. And if you know your cup is also always overflowing, like you become like a fountain of love, then you can give it away. So I'm giving it all to y'all right now, and I haven't lost anything by doing it. And I want to stay in that energy all the time. Yes, I get distracted just like everybody else, but I'm working on not getting distracted as much so that I can pour out everything that I've received. So I'm doing that in love. I hope you get something out of it. If you do, I hope you share it with other people. And I hope that you spend some time knowing how loved and worthy you are. And even the Screedo and the Doofus crew are also loved, even if they don't know it. So let ourselves be filled with love. Let our cup overflow. Find people who are willing to receive your blessings and encourage them to be blessed. And just keep on going. And thanks for being here. And if you have any questions or any stuff, feel free to comment or share or whatever you feel comfortable doing. I am a very unorganized substacker. I only do stuff by inspiration, trusting that it's going to hit where it needs to hit when it needs to hit. But if you want to help it connect with people, I'd receive that. Peace. Love y'all.